Welcome to episode 4 of Lead Dad Diaries with our good friend now, Skip Cherryholmes, musician and lead dad. Skip, month 4, summertime.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, summer's okay. You know, we're talking for this one in August. Hot up here, hot down there. How's everything going?
Yeah.
How's the summer?
Summer, it's been good. This last month has been it's been very hot, obviously, but summer fun. A lot of good things had the chance to do, and when you get the breaks you want to get, and yeah, it's been good.
I still keep thinking about it, and my kids keep talking about it. The question I asked you when we were just chatting at the beginning of this episode, I was like, what music does a musician listen to? And it all started with, if you're Taylor Swift, do you listen to Taylor Swift? And we know that Skip Cherryholmes does not listen to Skip Cherryholmes.
No. No, I do not. I don't know. I've always found it unusual to.
I didn't actually this out. I mean, even when your wife, you've known your wife for a long, long time. She comes from a musical family. Do you ever catch her listening to little Skip Cherryholmes, or is she just as tired of it? Oh, really? Oh, that's good.
Yes, yeah. So, back when we first started dating, I had put out a specific project. This would have been like 06, 07, somewhere in there. And she told me later on, she said, my family pulled up at Walt Disney World Resort, and I waited in the parking lot to listen to the premiere of your album on XM radio, because that was more important than going in and catching a full park day at Disney World. So I was like, wow. So, but yeah, so from time to time, she's got a couple of friends that have been friends with her for a long time. One of them actually knew us when we were first dating and all that, and they go and they still do some road trips and some fun stuff like that. And she'll listen to classic old music from my older days and some of the newer stuff too.
What's her favorite song? I gotta know this. Does she have a favorite song? Has she told you?
Yeah, her favorite song, it's one that I sang a long time ago. It's called Heat of the Morning. It's a great song, well-written song. It was probably my first solo, and I was maybe 15 when it came out, 16 when it came out. And it was a really I mean, call it a big song. For us, it was a big song in the day. And that was kind of cool. But that still to this day, if you asked her what her favorite song I've ever recorded, it would be that one. Wow. And she listens to it still.
That's awesome. Did you ever re-record it with a sort of older Skip voice, or you just left it?
I wish I had. I haven't to date. We'll put it that way. But I've always talked about it, and I've played it. There have been a few different groupings of musicians that I've played with, and they'll pull it out of the woodworks because people identify that song with me. And so I will do it, but I've never re-recorded it. It's classic.
What I got last time. What's it about? Heat of the Morning. What's it about?
It's about a guy who wakes up to realize that his love is gone and left a note on the bedside saying,
you wrote this
adios.
You wrote this when you're 15?
I didn't write it.
Okay.
I just sang it.
You said when you're 15. Wow.
Yes.
I can imagine. I think when I was 15, I probably got left behind by like some notes. So it wasn't like it wasn't a note on the bedside at age 15. It was like a note in my lunchbox or something like that, or in the cafeteria, like, locker. Hey, Sally doesn't like you anymore. You're like, what? No.
Yeah. This is a little bit more of a from a mature perspective, but guys, I think the line in the chorus, "I'm left here alone in the heat of the morning, forsaken by love and unwanted by you." That's like the last half of the chorus.
Good. That's great. All right.
Good song.
I'm glad I asked. Thanks, Skip. Let's hop into it. Our 5 questions, which I love because we get to trace your journey as a lead dad over this year. So what's been the best part of the past month?
Okay. The best part of the past month, honestly, I will say that since all of the changes and since everything that's gone on, this past month has been what I would call the most normal month. There wasn't, vacations or a whole bunch of business wrap up. Whenever I was coming out of my profession, there was a lot of business wrap up, and there was a lot of stuff that had to be settled. And then I went on vacation, and then there was this event, and that person had surgery, and this person, this, that, and the other thing. This last month has been pretty normal, what I would consider a very normal lifestyle month. And the first one in probably since around 2020 that I've actually had that kind of a month where it was just straight up, work during the week, hang out during the weekends, and kind of just exist. And I've loved that for our normal, and me being home and being able to spend time with the family and do some stuff. And we've done some different things, but all like community based, going to the library or going to, that kind of stuff. I couldn't tell you the last time I went to the library before this past month, just because that wasn't a thing to me. And while some people may not think that's a big deal, I got a huge kick out of it. And it really, and I think it's just the idea of being able to be more involved in the community. Actually helped over a couple of weekends. I had a friend of mine from church that I helped build a fence around his property. I've never had a weekend to do that with before, because a lot of music that I've ever played has always been on weekends. So, where I used to pack up, leave on a Wednesday night or Thursday morning and be gone until Monday morning, I actually had a Saturday and a Sunday I could set aside and say, hey, yeah, let's go build that fence. So it was kind of a cool segue into getting more involved in the community and all of that. That's the way the month has kind of come out.
It's fascinating because, of course, before all this, your normal was traveling, as you told us in previous episodes. Some 200 days a year, and your community was not the community where you live. It was the community of musicians and people who liked your music. And so that's wonderful to hear. But that will, segues into the next question is, you've embraced this community, you're really involved in the community, you're getting to do those things that, perhaps some of us take for granted, going to the library with our kids, but also, to be quite honest, some of us may not want to do, like help a friend build a fence. That's hard work. That's not like
it is, especially in July.
Yeah, in the heat. It's not in the heat of the day. In the heat, not just in the heat of the morning, in the heat all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, and I know this is super important to you and your family and who you are as a man of faith, to being part of your community. What was the worst part of the past month? The part that challenged you a bit?
The worst part, well, outside of the heat, obviously, which can provide a bunch of challenges. I don't know exactly where I would pinpoint necessarily a worst part, because there wasn't a whole lot of bad that went on. I mean, the recurring thing, especially with this last month and in the summer, is because it is so hot, everybody's spending a lot of time indoors. And when you spend a lot of time indoors, things can get a little antsy. My son, especially, he's, again, I know I've spoke about him a lot, because he's just in a different place than Adeline is. She's 2, and she's picking up on a lot of, she's in the terrible 2s. Oh my goodness. She's got, or at least I think they're finally done, but she's had her 2-year molars coming in. And then the other day she slipped and fell and busted her lip. And so between the molars and the lip, she didn't want to eat anything. She didn't want to put anything in her mouth. but she was constantly hungry. But she, it's just a lot. And then just the typical 2-year old, I'm not doing it. I don't care how much you bribe me or beg me or anything. I'm just not. And so there's been a lot of that with her. But I mean, that's just parenting. But with him, it's his mind is very curious, and there's a lot of things that it's like uh he is so focused on details. Everybody I've ever talked to, he absorbs details, and whenever he talks to people, he goes into detail about things, and that's a good thing. And it's definitely something to be aware of, because as he's paying attention to everything I and his mother do. And me being home more, that's a wonderful thing. I'm loving that I'm having that opportunity to be a part of his life, and do the things. And even more so than if were to not necessarily just be on the road, but if I was working at a regular open 9 to 5 job, I wouldn't experience a lot of the things that I'm experiencing with him. And it's wonderful. But at the same time, it's a full-time job attending to his curiosity and attending to his wow, there's this thing going on and that thing going on, and I want to be all up in it. And some of it, hey, it's not, you're not quite there yet. But he doesn't understand that, because he's quite there on so many other levels. And so there have been a few moments, I would say, over the last month where I've just had to establish some of that. You are growing up very fast, but you are also 5. Remember that. I have to remember it. And maybe that's the bigger challenge, is me remembering that he isn't as grown sometimes as he appears,
Right.
and not pushing him to grow up faster. Um, so if you want to say that there were some, the worst moment of the month, there have been some items like that, but all in all, it's not been a bad month. It's been a very, very overwhelming, in a good way, month. I'm seeing the positivity in a lot of these things that I'm doing, the changes, and the
Yeah.
opportunities to be more involved. And so all in all, it's a good thing.
Just as you said, you're really starting to settle into your community where you live. You're probably also settling into being there as a father, being a lead dad. And I can imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe some of the, we've talked about in the past, some of the best lead dad moments, those are sort of, early on. Has there been any change to the moments that you would consider, the best as being a lead dad, being, so much more, present both physically and mentally and emotionally for your kids over the past month?
Yes, definitely. And from my children's perspective, I'm seeing it so much more when there is a situation where I do have to go out of town. Um, I had a weekend back not long after our last talk where I had the opportunity to play music for a couple of days. So I was gone. I think I was only gone overnight
What
for
do you
one
mean?
night.
The musician can't retire? Is that what you're saying? The musician can't. You get the call and you're like, okay, put me in, coach. I'm ready.
But well, kind of. But this was show up in shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops, and hang out, play some music, enjoy the good food and company for a couple of evenings. And it was close enough to home. I think I left Friday morning. I played Friday evening, and then I spent the night in a hotel, played Saturday afternoon, and came home. Was home Saturday night into the wee hours of Sunday. So I wasn't really gone all that long. But even that right there, I was seeing my kids have gotten used to me being home. They aren't used to me packing up and going somewhere. And it's not a bad thing. It actually is very heartwarming to know that it's made that big of an impact on them. with it only being a few months in, that it's consistent that I'm home as much as I am. From my perspective, uh, as far as lead dad moments or opportunities where these changes that I've made are making an impact on me, most certainly, I think I think the key though is like actually maintaining the recognition when they come. Uh Whenever I have, and it's daily. It really is daily, but if I have moments where there's something that I know I would have missed out on in a prior life, or I know that I would have wanted to be a part of, and now I actually have the chance to be. Stop and recognize that, just internally, just recognize. I recognize, wow, I actually had the opportunity to have this moment or this occurrence, this event, and it fills me. It most certainly reaffirms the decisions I've made. Uh because it's a big thing to kind of jump off into the abyss and hope that you're making the right decision, and you kind of know that you are, because how could it be the wrong decision? You're making a decision based off of what's best for your family, and being more present in your family is most certainly what's best. But there's a lot of questions, and as time goes on and I see these moments and I'm a part of these things that I was previously not a part of, yeah, it absolutely fills me, and stopping to recognize it when they happen is a big piece of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd love to know like what it felt like for you to be back on stage, because I know like I was a journalist for so long, and in COVID we just started working, everyone remotely all the time, but like there was something that was always uh I love being in a newsroom. And I loved it. And as a columnist, you don't really need to be in a newsroom, but obviously I wasn't a columnist the whole time. I was a writer, and I love the energy of it. But on the scale of trade offs, I loved being able to be a lead dad, being with my kids, being there with my wife, more. What was it like for you, knowing that, only a few short months ago you were doing this, and you're recreating this whole different life, or creating, not recreating, creating this whole different life now? What was it like, on that drive home on Saturday evening, having just performed, two shows, knowing you're going back to your family?
um that's a wonderful question, and I'll preface it by saying, and I don't recall if this is necessarily something we've spoke on before, but understand that, especially for somebody who performed as long as I had, I never lost my passion for performing and creating music as an artist. I mean, that was a whole portion of my life that I thrived on. And especially when I surrounded myself with other people who were so committed and sold out to the reality of that artistry, I it drove me. And I was so uh every show was awesome. And there are, not that I'm suggesting anybody go do this, but if you go and watch even videos, or ever had the chance to watch a performance that I put on, I gave it my entire body, my heart and soul, everything, and I was glad to, and I loved it. And it's something that even my wife recognized is just as a part of my core. It just was natural to me. And I was also the crazy guy who did crazy things on stage, and I love doing it for the sake of the art and whatnot. We won't get into that. But so I the reason why I'm saying all of that is because, just like you said, as much as I have always loved and had a passion for that, the trade-off of the lead dad, the life at home, the family life, was just so I don't know, it was so much more enriching and so much more, um, uh, well, obviously what I decided I ended up wanting to chase after. But never did I ever lose the passion for being on stage. So to return to the stage, as you know, I probably will from time to time, is very satisfactory, um, on a lot of levels. It allows me to reaffirm that, you know, I still have that in me. uh B, it kind of helps me get it out of my system and satisfy that thing without having to be gone for months on end. Um and it's great when I still see the appreciation, when people will come out specifically because they know I'm not as available as I once was. So now they're going to travel long distances to be a part of something that I've had an opportunity to do. But then on the other side, I'm sitting there thinking, wow, I got a full weekend of music in, and now I'm going to go home and be with my family. What a blessing, you know. And the next time that I have the chance to play on stage, I'll be like, yeah, this is wonderful, and I'll put everything into it that I always have, as long as you know, I physically am capable to, and then I'll have the chance to still go home, sleep in my own bed or whatever the case is. I know a lot of musicians who over time, I one you know, even somebody like Peter Frampton, somebody as huge as he was, you know, got into the sessions kind of a thing for a while there because it was more important to him, while still taking a craft that he had highly developed and passion for what it was that he did, but to not just be pounding the road all the time. And it's not about it's never been about what I was to everybody else. It was always about what it meant to me. So that's why it was easy to make that decision. But I still love the opportunity to play, and especially around people who appreciate it.
That's fantastic. That's a great answer. On to our fourth question. Most challenging. What's been the most challenging moment as a lead dad this
As a
past
lead
month?
dad,
Yeah.
the most challenging moments to me, and if I did speak on this last week, just consider what I said times like 100. um i have I have landed myself into so many different things, and I'm like the kid in the candy shop. I'm wanting to try it all. I'm wanting to do all of this stuff that I never had the opportunity to do, never knew that I was capable of doing some of these things. And some of this, what I'm talking about, is also work related things that I'm using to try to build my own entity, so to speak, or things that are you know, pulling me forward. And I have to be very deliberate about shutting it off. And you know, my creative mindset, it's bouncing off the walls all the time, but it does everybody in this household no service that I would, you know, if you remember back to one of the defining moments of why I made the decision to come off the road, it had to do with my son trying to talk to me about something, and I could not focus on him because there was so much else going on in my mind, and I was getting impatient with him, which made me get impatient with myself and all that. I've got to be deliberate about not letting that happen again, because I want to see this family succeed. It's my nature that if I'm going to make such a drastic change, and I'm going to literally take something that I did for 20 some odd years and then totally do a 180 and go in a totally different direction, uh not knowing exactly what that looks like, that I have to at least make sure that it succeeds, that we succeed, and that there isn't a bump in the road, so to speak, because of such a huge change, um, aside from normal bumps. But in that, I'm finding that the buffet is wide open and I'm sitting there trying my hand at so many different things, but there are only so many hours in the day and so many days in the week. And some of that I have the right to set aside and say, no, I'm not doing it today. The others, my family has the right to say, no, we need you in this spot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my bigger challenges have been that I do need to be deliberate about shutting off when I need to shut off. I also need to be, I don't need to make everything utilitarian. It's my nature to find a greater use for every single thing that I do and every single thing that somebody else does. I have to find a reason why it's worth more or bigger than just what it is. And so I have to be very conscious of that, when, especially like when it comes to my son. Well, okay, my son wants me to read him a book. I'll just give a very simple example. This is a struggle that I'm going through as a lead dad. Son wants me to read him a book. Sit down and read him a book. Well, I'm instantly trying to use that book to teach him how to read, vowel sounds, spellings, all of this different stuff. He just wants to hear a story. It's the end of the night. He doesn't need everything to be a lesson. And I think part of why I've gotten in, or I've done that, is because I see the potential in him to absorb all of this. But sometimes it's not about that. It's about dad sat down and read me a story. And I enjoyed that time with dad. That's what it's all about. And so those challenges, the greatest challenges I've faced in this last month, especially as a dad, as a husband, as somebody who's providing for the household, is that I have to keep myself in check on those levels. I've been given the opportunity to be a huge impact on my family, but that does not mean that every waking second for myself or for my family has to be some deeper thought, deeper meaning, bigger lesson, craziness. I have to allow my kids to be my kids. I have to allow my jobs to be my jobs. And I have to be who I need to be for both when it's time. So, biggest challenges, keeping myself in check on all that.
And something like that, Skip, probably dovetails into our final question, always our final question, which is, any lessons learned. I almost feel like, you answered it there. Is that fair? Or is that,
Yeah, because the and it kind of it kind of backfires into what I was just saying, is the fact that the one question, what are the most challenging moments, they are the lessons that I'm learning. So again, finding the greater, deeper purpose behind one thing and the other, but it's true. And I think that's a good thing. I think that if I'm actually recognizing and learning those lessons, that I will accomplish and I'll succeed. But I do feel that the lessons that I'm learning or that have been presented to me in the most normal month of my time off are that this train can get away from me very easily if I allow it. And I need to remember that I'm not this, I don't have to be certain things that I've had to be in the past. I know what I have to be, and I know where I need to split it up. I just need to be attentive to myself and make sure that I'm compartmentalizing in the correct ways, because otherwise I'll it'll be chaos.
That's great. And just one follow up to that, I can imagine. I'm just saying this through. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I can imagine that when you were traveling, 200 days a year, you probably felt like you had to pack a lot more into reading that book.
Oh yeah.
With your son.
Oh,
Because it was like, okay, I may not get to read the book with him again for another 4 days or something like that. And so let's make, is that fair to say?
Is absolutely fair to say. I am coming off of a habit of, okay, I literally may only have these 2 evenings with my son this week. And so I need to make sure that everything that I do with him or with my wife or with my daughter has more than just the surface purpose, because I'm not going to be here for the rest of the week. So I need to cram as much of this in to this one book, so to speak, as I can. That's absolutely part of where it comes from. And then it's the same way as what it was when I was on the road and I'm sitting there. Okay, well, if I'm leaving and I'm going to be gone for 5 days, I'm working solid for 5 days. And some of those are 24-hour days. I don't have to live like that anymore. I'm used to it. I don't have to. I have the right and the ability to say, okay, shut it off, read a book of my own, hang out with the family, check in on people that live within the community, do what I feel like is a service to me. And I'm a busybody too. My mom is as well. She's actually getting ready to have a major surgery on her shoulder and her arm. And I was talking to her the other day, and she's like basically planning out all of the things that she knows she can accomplish until her surgery, and then all of the things that she plans to jump into after her surgery, because she doesn't want that to mean that there's downtime. She's well, I won't say how old she is, but she's not young as far as somebody who would have that mindset. But maybe that's part of what keeps her young. I don't know, but she's that mentality. I'm the same way. I'm always looking for, well, if I can accomplish this, what's the most efficient way to do this, and this? How can I organize this to be this? And life, it's good to have those abilities and those traits, but it's not necessary to handle everything with that mentality.
That's fantastic, Skip. Thank you so much. I'll just add this. If you run out of fences to build in your town, I've got a hole in the fence in my backyard. You can come up here anytime. We'll keep you busy here.
I've got you covered.
It's a little cooler in Connecticut. It's not quite as hot as it is in North Carolina. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Skip Cherryholmes, month 4 of Lead Dad Diaries. Always great to chat with you. Always great to run through our 5 questions for our listeners. A new episode appears the first Thursday of every month, but then we run clips every single Thursday just to make sure people are hearing Skip's very important, but also really interesting story. Thank you again, Skip. Talk to you next month.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to the Company of Dads podcast. I also want to thank the people who make this podcast and everything else that we do at the Company of Dads possible. Helder Mira, who is our audio producer. Lindsay Decker, who handles all of our social media. Terry Brennan, who's helping us with the newsletter and audience acquisition. Emily Servin, who is our web maestro. And of course, Evan Roosevelt, who is working side by side with me in many of the things that we do here at the Company of Dads. It's a great team, and we're just trying to bring you the best in fatherhood. Remember, the one-stop shop for everything is our newsletter, The Dad. Sign up at thecompanyofdads.com/thedad. Thank you again for listening.